Most of us spend 12 to 15 years of our life inside a school building. From primary to high school alone, that's thousands of hours learning concrete skills. You memorize the exact dates of important historical events, dissect a couple of frogs in biology, analyze Shakespeare plays, and, if you're like me, solve thousands of complex equations in algebra. And yet, the one skill that impacts every single day of your adult life gets completely skipped. Money. How you earn it, manage it, grow it, and, most importantly, avoid losing it. And I can already hear some of you thinking, but Victor, what about all those countless economics lessons I had? Well, let's be honest. You might have learned abstract concepts like supply and demand curves, GDP, and why it's not very smart to print an infinite amount of money. But did school ever really teach you the specific, practical ways to actually handle money in real life? Like how to make a realistic budget, understand compound interest, or avoid common debt traps? Zero lessons on that. Which might explain why 59% of Americans still can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. Why is there such a massive blind spot in something so essential? Most people assume it's just an oversight in the curriculum. But the truth is, it's not an oversight. The modern school system was designed without practical financial literacy in mind, and often intentionally so. I'm Victor, and today we're going deep into the real history behind why schools skip this stuff. And since on this channel, we don't do the loser mentality of just complaining about the system, but actually do something about it, we'll wrap up with some simple, straightforward steps you can take right now to fill those gaps and take control of your finances. Part 1. The history. Don't worry, this is still a financial channel, and I'm not here to give you a full history class. But to understand why money was left out of the modern schooling system, we need to go back to its origins. And that takes us to the 18th century, to a region called Prussia, which is now part of Germany. In 1763, King Frederick the Great introduced one of the world's first compulsory education laws. Every child, no matter their background, had to attend state-run schools for at least 8 years. Was this to turn them into smart entrepreneurs or little Einsteins? No. The real plan was super straightforward. Make disciplined soldiers for the army and reliable workers who wouldn't complain. And that's why, by the early 1800s, they nailed the system. Bells ringing every few minutes, kids lined up in perfect rows, the same lessons for everybody, gold stars for behaving, and zero room for what if I do it my way? It was basically mass production at the time. And because of its incredible effectiveness, this Prussian idea spread like wildfire across Europe in the 19th century. Which was actually great in many ways, since it pulled kids out of dangerous factory jobs, where they'd been slaving away 10 to 12 hours a day in awful conditions. Instead, they got protected and educated. Literacy rates exploded too, jumping from under 50% in many places to nearly 100% by the early 20th century. That meant more people could read, write, and climb the social ladder, especially the poor who never had access before. But still, even today, if you walk into most schools in pretty much any Western country, you can still spot those old Prussian fingerprints. Bells, rows of desks, standardized lessons, and a big focus on fitting in rather than thinking independently. And this shared foundation is the main reason there's still such a huge blind spot when it comes to practical money education in schools. John Taylor Gatto, who taught for over 30 years and wrote The Underground History of American Education in 2000, put it perfectly. Schools aren't accidentally bad at teaching money skills. They're actually really good at what they were originally built for: training conformity, discouraging too much questioning of authority, and getting people ready for wage jobs and spending, instead of owning assets or creating real financial freedom. And let's get one thing super clear. I'm really not here to say schools are bad. I'm even a student myself, and school has taught me tons of great skills: critical thinking, discipline, how to work with others, you name it. But once I started my own little YouTube adventure about 2 years ago, I quickly realized how little school actually taught me about money. I had no clue how to handle my taxes properly or how to start investing at all. It felt like I was starting from zero in the real world.
And that's exactly why I'm making this video. Because here's why the gap is still hurting us today. Let's take the OECD's PISA 2022 Financial Literacy Assessment as an example, the biggest international study of 15-year-olds. On average, across the participating OECD countries, 18% of students don't even reach basic proficiency, which means they struggle with everyday things like understanding interest, making a simple budget, or spotting financial risks. In other words, almost 1 in 5 teenagers is leaving school without the basic money tools they'll need right away as adults. And this shows up clearly in adults too. The 2023 OECD/INFE International Survey of Adult Financial Literacy found that, on average, adults scored only 63 out of 100 on financial knowledge. And just 42% correctly understood compound interest, the single most powerful concept for building wealth over time. That's why so many smart, hardworking people still end up living paycheck to paycheck, buried in student loans or credit card debt, even when they have decent jobs. But here's the good news. Recognizing the gap is the first step to closing it. And that's exactly what we're going to do next, with simple, practical steps you can start taking right now, no matter where you are in life. Part 3. Simple, practical steps to fill the gap. Here's the good news. You don't need a degree or some shady, expensive course from a guru. You just need a few small changes. So here are 3 simple steps explained in just a few sentences you can start applying right now. Start filling the knowledge yourself. While I would of course love to suggest you watch all my videos and subscribe to my channel, I would definitely recommend picking up a few great books that actually teach practical money stuff. Take for example The Psychology of Money or Rich Dad Poor Dad. Just read 10 pages a day. Even if you don't like reading, I trust you'll like these books. Learn one beginner investing move. Many people think investing is complicated and boring, but it can be super simple. A great way to start is by understanding ETFs. They're like a basket of stocks you can buy in one go. A very popular one is an S&P 500 ETF, which is basically a giant cocktail of the 500 largest companies in the US. This means you basically own a tiny slice of the whole market without having to research individual stocks all day. The magic word here is compound interest, earning interest on your interest. It might sound confusing, but it's like a snowball rolling downhill that gets bigger and bigger over time. For example, $100 invested at a 7% average annual return grows to $107 after 1 year. But after 40 years, it adds up to almost $1,500. So the key factor is time, and that's exactly why starting early matters so much. Once you get the idea, do what most smart people do. Set up automatic transfers that put, for example, 10% of your paycheck straight into a simple ETF account the moment you get paid. This keeps it chill, removes emotion, and often still beats people who are glued to charts all day. Attack debt the smart way. For many people, debt feels invisible, and this is the reason they stay stuck. So that's why it's incredibly important that if you have debt, you take this part very seriously. What I want you to do is make a list of all your debts, and then choose one of these 2 methods. Either pick debt avalanche, which means you pay the highest interest debts first to minimize total cost and save money. Or pick what we call debt snowball, which is better for when you want to build quick wins, since you pay the debts with the smallest balance first. I understand that when that paycheck hits, you want to spend on fun things. But believe me, handling debt and building these basics is the most important thing if you don't want to be stuck for the rest of your life. And of course, in the short time I have, I can only give you the absolute basics. So if you want deeper dives, I have great news for you. That's exactly what this channel is for. Definitely feel free to check out some of my other videos and leave a comment if there's any specific topic you want me to cover next. Because trust me, a lot more is coming.